Guys, welcome back to my channel. I am here today for a good old-fashioned foundation review, and today I'm going to be talking about the Shiseido Revitalessence Skin Glow Foundation. This is not brand new, but it is newer to the Shiseido line of foundations. I have had hit or miss luck when it comes to foundations from this line. There was one years ago, which I went through 2 bottles of and absolutely loved, and then they brought out another one and it didn't work as well for me. So I was kind of iffy about this, but I don't know, curiosity got the best of me and I wanted to give it a try. So before we jump into the demo, I'll give you a couple of claims and facts about this. This does come in a typical 1 fluid ounce bottle. It retails for $56 and it comes in 30 shades. I am in the shade Pine, which is described as best for medium skin with neutral undertones. This claims to have a medium coverage, a radiant finish. It also claims to be hydrating. It does have an SPF 30 in it in the form of octinoxate, which is a chemical filter. I don't rely on SPF in foundation or any makeup products. I always have a different one on underneath. And it does have a couple of ingredient callouts. This does contain niacinamide. It does also have a prebiotic in it in the form of fermented kefir, which is supposed to help the microbiome of the skin. And it has something called a makeup micro capsule in it, or capsules in it, which are supposed to suspend the skincare within the makeup, or suspend the makeup within the skincare to deliver all the skincare benefits to the skin. I don't know. Sounds like marketing to me, but there is skincare in this foundation. Very quickly on the ingredients and some that you might want to be aware of, aside from the niacinamide, I tend to be a little sensitive if the niacinamide is too strong. I have not had any sensitivity to this, so I don't think that that's going to be an issue even if you do have sensitivity to it. It does have castor oil in the ingredients, and while some people swear by that on the face, there are also quite a few that cannot use anything with that because it breaks them out. So be aware of that. And it also has lavender oil in it, which again is kind of the same as castor oil. Some people love it, some people are very sensitive to it. So be aware of that. And then there is also denatured alcohol in this, which some people just do not want in their foundation at all. I speak of fragrance in the demo while I'm applying it. They don't have added fragrance or perfume in the ingredient list. I think that that's coming from possibly the lavender oil and some other ingredients in it. But from what I can see on the Inky list, there is no synthetic fragrance added. So let's go ahead and jump into the demo and see how this performs. Okay, so just to give you an idea of what we're working with today, because I did use my Numbuzin SPF, which is an SPF that has absolutely no coverage whatsoever, no tint to it whatsoever. So this is like my true redness, which typically is the most red on the cheeks, but then it does go all the way down. You can see it down here. A couple, like a blemish right here. This is not a blemish, but it was, and it's a red spot that just will not go away. So just a little bit to cover up. I will go ahead and let you know what brushes and tools I have tried with this. I have not tried a sponge with this. It's a very lightweight texture, which you will see. And usually the thinner the texture, the less chance that I'm going to use a sponge with it, because it tends to soak up a lot of the product. And to be fair, I really only have like maybe 2 foundations that I prefer a sponge with, and the rest I like a brush. So I did try out my IT Cosmetics Heavenly Luxe Complexion Perfection No. 7 brush. I actually did not love it with this brush. I felt like it kind of just moved it around without actually applying it. I don't know if it's because it's too small or if it's because of the consistency of the foundation. It just wasn't my favorite, which is definitely not something I often say because I love this brush. My favorite brush that I used with it was my IT Cosmetics number 115. And I think it's because it's a little bit bigger, it covers more ground, it's a little bit more dense, and it's easier to stipple the product in. Now, I also tried it using my hands. And honestly, the first day I used it with my hands, I absolutely adored it. The second day, I felt like I needed to build it up a little bit more on my redness. But I did find in doing that this is a buildable foundation. So that's what I'm going to do today. I'm going to start with my fingers, and then I'm going to see if I need anything else applied. Then I'll be able to show you how buildable it is without looking too heavy or cakey. So again, I am in the shade number 320 Pine. I am going to shake this up which is in the instructions. It is a very liquidy foundation. And I am going to put 2 pumps. You can see how thin it is. And I'm gonna kind of apply it like I would a tinted moisturizer. This does have a scent to it. It's not overwhelming, but it is there. However, I don't find that it lingers. So just like that. Now, when I put it on with my fingers, it's harder for me to do, obviously, like a side-by-side comparison. So you may want to rewind this a few seconds to see what my skin looked like without it. But it definitely adds a more hydrated look. It definitely has a glow to it. So I do find the claim of a radiant finish is indeed true. Now my skin always gets a little red when I touch it, but I feel like even that has died down a little bit. So I'll show you what it looks like just applying it with my fingers. Definitely can still see the spots, but they were covered up some. And it just evens out the overall complexion. Now just for demonstration purposes, because honestly, I would probably be fine with leaving it just like it is, I will show you that it's buildable, and I will put another not even half of a pump just where my redness is the worst. And I am gonna take a brush then and stipple it in, because I feel like I can be a little more targeted with the application with a brush. So to me, yes, this is a buildable formula, and it is buildable to medium. You're not gonna get more than medium coverage. It claims to have a medium coverage, but for me, I have to build it up to that. When I first apply it, it is more of a light coverage. And then again, if I wanted to add more, that's when the medium will come in building it up. The color is really, really good. In fact, it's one of the best color matches that I've had in a while in a foundation. I had originally wanted the light to medium shade. They were sold out, and I'm very glad I went with the medium shade, which this is described as a medium. In that regard, you might want to maybe go up a shade. For me, in my experience, it has worked the best. So this is what it looks like built up. Again, you can see definitely the glow. Now, as I will powder it down, that will go down, and you will see that in the final look, which I'm gonna do right now. So I'm gonna finish up my makeup. We will come back and I will tell you all of the sunscreens I used with it, all the powders I used with it, what was my favorite, what was my least favorite, and if I recommend this foundation. So I'll be right back. Makeup is complete. I will tell you in a second what I have over this. But see what I mean? Like, obviously I have highlight on, but it did get less glowy when I put powder on it, which most foundations do, depending on what powder you use. Which today was the Too Faced Primed and Poreless. I hope they even make this anymore. I think maybe it's called something different, but this has been a favorite of mine for a while. This is actually my second compact that I went through. And I haven't used it in forever. And for some reason, while I was researching and doing different combinations for this foundation, I pulled it out. And I like it. Hence the reason I wore it today. So let's go through real quick the combinations that I wore while actually writing down notes about this foundation. These are not the only times I wore the foundation. In fact, I wore it about 3 times before this. So probably 7 or 8 times total up to this point. The very first day, I used a brand new SPF to me. In fact, because I have been doing research on this foundation, it's the only time that I have used this so far. But Freeze Co Beauty started selling Pavis. I think that's how you pronounce it. And this is the Dynamic Age Defense SPF. This is a mineral SPF. It does not have a tint to it. I also used my favorite IT Cosmetics Bamboo Powder on this day. I had it on for 9 hours and I used my IT Cosmetics brush. This is when I realized this wasn't my favorite. Obviously it still works. It just wasn't my favorite. When I first applied it, even though my skin was not looking dry, I felt like it did after I was done with my makeup for the day. And I did feel the need to use a hydration spray, which I don't often do unless my skin is feeling extra dry. So it's one that I definitely felt like I needed a little bit of help with, despite the radiant finish and non-drying claims that the foundation has. It did wear well throughout the day. There was a little wear on my chin. To be fair, when I'm working at my computer and stuff, I do tend to put my hand on my chin. And so if I'm gonna have wear of a foundation, typically that's where it is. Now, another day I had wear in a really random place that I'll get to. But other than that, it wore well for the 9 hours that I had it on. I didn't get that like, oh my word, this foundation is absolutely amazing on my skin feeling that I get with some foundations. But I also wasn't like, oh, I hate this. Like, it does absolutely nothing for me. So it's kind of just like a middle of the road day. Now, the next day, I wore my Isden SPF, which does have a slight tint to it. And then I followed up with my Chanel loose powder. This is probably my second favorite combination with this foundation. I wore it the longest on this day for a total of 13 hours. And I used my 115 brush that I spoke about loving in the demo. There was something about the combination where I just felt like it looked even better on this day than it did the day before. I had very little wear. The place that I did have wear after 13 hours was actually on my upper lip, which is strange. I guess maybe I was like doing this throughout the day and some came off that way. But when I say wear, I'm talking like I am really sticking my face in a mirror and investigating where this is wearing off, not something that I think anybody else would notice, even face-to-face talking to me. And 13 hours is a very good wear time for a foundation. So again, I did like it better on this day. The third day, I used my RMS Supernatural Radiant Serum SPF and my Aeropress powder. Now, this is the old packaging. I do think they've actually reformulated this a little bit. I haven't tried the new one yet. Here's the thing on this day. I still had to spray after I applied it this day. I also did on day 2. I used my hands on this day and I loved it. In fact, I put in my notes that so far that was my favorite way. I talked about that in the demo. It did look a tad heavier on this day than the other days, but I wouldn't say it looked heavy. And I think the reason for that is this SPF. Not because it is bad or heavy in of itself, but it is a little bit thicker than some of the other formulas that I've used. And I just feel like maybe that has something to do with it. However, this has become lately my favorite SPF to wear on my no makeup days because it has the most blurring filter-like finish. It's the only thing I wore on Christmas Day. I wasn't about to spend time putting makeup on. I stuck this on the morning and I just felt like really put together. It blurred out my redness. So this is really, really, really nice on its own for me. And honestly, it's not bad under foundations, but I do think that's why I felt that it looked a little heavier. It looked heavier, not heavy. So there's a difference. Heavier than the other days, but not heavy looking. I had it on for about 8 hours this day. Again, wore pretty much the same. And then the final day is what I have on today, the Numbuzzin SPF and my Too Faced powder. And this is honestly my favorite combination. This is the only day that I did not have to spray. I did not feel like it looked dry upon first application or that it needed any extra help. I didn't touch up on any of these days. It didn't get super glowy or dewy or overly radiant. Didn't feel like that. Again, the wear time is good. That just happens to be my favorite combination, which is why I used it for this demo as well. And for application, I did the same that I did in this demo. I used my hands and then I touched up with the 115 brush. This is an SPF that to me looks better on the skin as you wear it. Now, I'm not saying you have to wait 4 to 5 hours for it to look better, but really like 30 minutes to an hour after I apply it, I feel like it looks probably 5 times better than when I did apply it. There's something about it needing to sink into the skin and kind of mesh with everything else you use with it to really shine the most. And I do feel like it's a great foundation. It is not in my top 5, but all of the hallmarks for what I look for in a good foundation are there. It wears well. I really didn't have huge issues fluctuating between the SPFs and the powders as to where it looked super different between any of them. There was no need for touch-ups. It's the right amount of radiant for me. I do not like something that's too radiant. I don't want to look sweaty. I just want to look luminous, and this really did it for me. It is a very nice buildable foundation. Some days I only want/need light. Some days I want/need more, and I can manipulate it light or medium coverage, as you saw in the demo. I don't need the SPF. It doesn't hurt that it's there, but I don't need it. And I really would prefer all SPF to be out of it because I did read a review right before I started filming that was like, this is a great all-in-one last step to my skincare routine because it has the SPF in it. And I'm like, oh no, you're not getting enough SPF with the amount of foundation you're using, but to each their own. So again, it really checks all the boxes for me, and I do like it. I will continue to use it. It's just not like this, for some reason, overwhelming wow foundation, and I don't know really what it would have to be that for me. It's just a feeling that I get when I look at, what my makeup looks like at the end of the day. It's either, wow, I flipping love this, or yeah, it's nice. And this is kind of just like, yeah, it's nice. Now, if you have dry skin, if you have like more mature skin, the texture of this and the consistency is ideal in my opinion. I do like how lightweight it is. I like how easy it is to apply. And I think you will like that as well if you fall into those categories. If you are super oily, this might not work for you. It might be a little too radiant. If you're sensitive to any of the ingredients I called out in the intro, definitely take note of that as well. But overall, I like this foundation. In fact, it was a couple of people's favorite of the year when they commented on my favorites video. So it's definitely one to try out if the look of it and the consistency and all of the call outs is something that you look for in a foundation. So hopefully this was helpful. I will have everything listed and linked below per usual. Let me know if you have any questions. Be sure and like and subscribe before you leave so you don't miss out on any future videos. And I hope you all go out and have a very blessed day.